For my money, he's the best interviewer in the game. I've said it before. I'll say it to his face. He's also a diehard Chicago Bears fan and a pal of mine. From Hot Ones, Mr. Sean Evans joins the season with Peter Schrager. What's up, buddy?
I'm doing good, buddy. Thanks so much for having me.
You're in a busy season too. As I'm doing football, you guys are filming a new season. Is it usually secret on like who you're doing your interviews with and who you guys are doing the Hot Ones challenges with, or do you are you allowed to share who you've been working with already?
Yeah. We keep it under wraps, but we do have a season premiere coming up this week, and it's with NSYNC, all five of them, and it was
All five of them?
all five of them. 60 wings on the table, a record for us, and it's an awesome episode. I can't wait for people to see it.
5 different microphones, or one microphone and everyone huddled around each other?
5 lavs, like 4 booms. It was stress testing our production for sure.
Yeah, Justin Timberlake, cool guy.
Awesome guy. I've worked with him before. He's done Hot Ones before, and but an awesome guy. Joey's done it before, so it was kind of reunited with a couple of them. But it was an awesome shoot. I can't wait for people to see it.
I saw them at the VMAs. Are they like, I don't know the history of like NSYNC, whether they've done reunions. I know Backstreet Boys is still, like, is it a big deal that they're back together? Is this the first time in 20 years?
Yeah, maybe they've done a Grammy appearance together or something before, but this is kind of a big cultural moment and, a chance to kind of look back on this crazy ride that they've been. And they're all on the other side of it and all in a good headspace. And it just felt like guys reminiscing about the good old days. And it's an awesome episode.
All right. So for the listeners who aren't aware of Sean's work, and I don't think it's embarrassing if you're not. You might not live online. That's it. That's fine. It's an incredible show. It's 20 to 30 minutes, and Sean will interview a celebrity guest, and the questions will get increasingly more personal and more about the. But as they're doing that, they are eating hotter and hotter chicken wings along the way, and the chicken wings go from like a level 1 to the level 10. And by the end of the thing, the guest is in their most vulnerable states, and they are sweating bullets, and they inevitably open up to you, and you get some of the best answers around. Sean, where did you get started? Like, how did this come to be? Because your face for a lot of people was new. Like, I don't know that guy from that TV show, and I don't know that guy from stand-up comedy. Take us back to like post-college, like, and how this thing got rolling.
Yeah, I went to the University of Illinois. I was a broadcast journalism major. As big as I dreamed, as I thought I'd graduate and then maybe get a job, hopefully, as an assistant producer at ESPN 1000 or 670 The Score or something. And just be like a drive time morning talk, like sports radio producer. That's as big as I ever dreamed. But I would always do interviews for whoever asked me on like a freelance basis out in Chicago. And then in 2014, I was down in All-Star Weekend in New Orleans and had interviews like 2 Chainz and John Wall and all these basketball players and musicians. And at that time, every magazine was becoming a YouTube channel basically. And they were like, can we put these on camera just because we need, just videos to put on our YouTube channel. So
content.
Yeah, we just need content. So I said, sure, please do. That would be awesome. And then they liked them enough to offer me a full-time job. So I quit what I had going on in Chicago and sold all my stuff and broke my lease. And I was in New York with 4 roommates who I'd never met before, like 30 days later. And then I met Chris Schoenberger in the office, and we became friends. He's the GM of First We Feast. He had this idea, what if we interviewed celebrities but had them eat increasingly spicy chicken wings over the course of the interview? I thought it was genius. We hammered out a pilot. We shot a pilot with Tony Yayo, and we haven't stopped shooting them since. That was almost 9 years ago, and here we are, 22 seasons, over 300 episodes. It's been a crazy ride.
300 episodes,
yeah,
22 seasons, and like the star power, it's getting bigger and bigger. Now, of course, we've seen the clip with like Paul Rudd and Matt Damon had that great answer with you, but like this past season, I'm watching it and it's, Jake Gyllenhaal, and then the next week it's Kieran Culkin. Like, you guys continue to get these A-list actors. Are they pitching you? Are you pitching them? Because I watch some of these other shows at late night and in the mornings, and like they're not getting A-list anymore.
Well, I think that's we have to be resourceful. I think that's kind of an edge for us, and we have a spreadsheet that is all of our targets, all the times that we've pitched them over like the last decade. Whether the trail is warm, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, all those different things. What movies do they have coming out? What things do they have coming out? Is it time to pitch them again if it was a little bit warmer last time? And then just trying to find those dates. And yeah, it is crazy that it's gotten to the point where now I would say half of our guests are incoming and half of them are outgoing. It's just us being aggressive and we can pop up the show. If you're in LA, we'll hop on a plane, go meet you. We can pop up the
travels.
show. Yeah, it travels. We could pop up in a garage if we want. So I think that's been kind of an advantage for us, and we do care. I mean, that's the driving force of everything that we do is putting on a show that people are interested in, that are fans who've been so loyal for all this time and have allowed us to have a show with such longevity, and we just try to feed that beast. So that's always the motivating driving force with everything that we do, and that's what keeps us up at night. And over the years we've gotten pretty good at it, but I never take it for granted ever. The guests that we've had in, I think that's our crowning achievement of our show, and I'm really proud of it.
It used to be you'd want to do like a magazine cover. You
Yeah.
got a big movie coming out, and maybe you do a junket. Like now I feel like put me on Hot Ones with Sean. All 2 questions. It'll go viral. We'll have a great moment, and then people will be aware of the movie that's coming out.
Yeah, I think that's just shows how things have changed, where those are the things that move the needle now. And that's always the case that I try to make is, yeah, there's this caveat where you have to eat scorching hot chicken wings, but people care and they show up and they fill the auditorium and they cheer you on no matter how things go over the course of the interview. And it's a humanizing experience for celebrities who are often put on a pedestal. We all know what it's like to die on hot sauce. So it actually kind of knocks that person off that pedestal, humanizes them. And it's just one of those things where I think we accidentally invented that. What's it like to have a beer with that person's show? And it's a unique look for the guests as well. So as much as that there's kind of a drag on it where it's like, yeah, you have to eat these scorching hot chicken wings. The way I look at it, I see a lot of upside.
Yeah, and the wings are. I mean, it's the shiny object. It's so secondary to the interviews because you're not asking typical questions. You're not telling me about what's this funny story on set. You're doing your research and like deep research, and you're asking about their childhoods, their philosophies, and you must mine so much information. I think if you watch Hot Ones, you know that. And if you don't watch it, trust me, these questions, it's not like this is just your standard junket and you go deep. How do you do your research for these interviews? Do you have a team of guys and gals that are doing this? Because a lot of times you'll reference things from interviews 10 years ago that they've said.
Yeah. I mean, you just try to look at everything that you possibly can, read everything that you possibly can. If they're an actor, I'll watch their movies. If they've written books, I'll read the books. If they're a musician, that'll become the soundtrack of my week, And then I just try to marinate in that. I do have my little brother Gavin, who I've put out there to create these packets, these research dossiers, and Chris does it as well, and I do it, and we've just kind of kept that same process going for a really long time. There aren't that many chefs in the kitchen. It's just kind of us, but everybody's motivated, again, by that driving force to create a good show, and I think that's what you need. If it were just people dying on hot sauce, I think the audience would have tuned out by now. It has to be an excellent interview show combined with this unique hook. Again, that's our driving force for everything that we do, and it's kind of fun. I think I'm a naturally curious person, and I really enjoy the process of walking a mile in someone else's shoes for a week, and so it never gets old for me. There's never any attrition that sets in. I really enjoy that, and honestly, what an amazing job to just even have that. That can be your kind of 9-to-5 existence. So that's it. You just try to marinate in it and then do the best that you can and see what happens. But I always think that it's important that we put an effort in for the guest because they're jumping through a lot of hoops for us. You know what I mean? Like if it's a lazy, boring interview, then I think that's part of the reason people make it through so often and don't cut out is because they're kind of roped in not only by this ridiculous wing stunt, but also by, an interview that's like, as we like to put it, the most comfortable, least comfortable.
I've done my research on you.
Uh-oh.
Nothing to dig up that's bad, but tell me about giving tours of Chicago architecture.
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
So that was my summer job from, I think when I was a senior in high school all the way through college. So for all of these summers, I would just stack tours. So it was a 90-minute river and lake tour, and you'd have, 150, 200 people on the boat every time. And I always think, I was a broadcast journalism major, but I think the most important thing in my whole journey to being like where I am now, the most important sort of side mission was these boat tours, because you'd be up in front of people, you'd always be doing a performance. And I think it was that really helped the storytelling, that helped the pacing, that helped build my confidence. And I would just do these tours all summer long. You'd work like 6 days a week. They'd be really long days that could start at 8 a.m. and end at 8 p.m. And I remember you'd make tips, and you'd work in like these boats with so many people. I'd be just stuffing my backpack with cash every day. It was the best. It was the best job. And I often think that if there's one thing I could kind of go back to, like I almost think I could go back and do it now and be just as happy.
Right? Like,
but
just be free and like liberated.
it was the best summer job ever. And
do you want to know what I did?
What did you do? Yeah, I am very curious actually.
Dude, I was a telemarketer.
Oh my gosh.
So you want to talk about? You've seen the new HBO?
Yeah. I love that. I love that doc. I love that.
Pat
doc.
Papsis. All of that. I was a New Jersey telemarketer, and it was all my boys from high school, and we were selling, and it was like just the gift of gab. Get someone on the phone and don't let them hang up, and just lead them to this point. And all those skills, you better believe
they've served you.
Today.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And guess what? I would love to go back and try it and see if I can still do it.
Yeah, I bet you've gotten better. And same with me. I bet it's a full letter grade or two better than what I had before. I stopped building too early.
No, you get all these celebrities in. Now, you and I, we've built to this career, whatever. Still, there's certain football players that'll walk in, or celebrities, and I'm like, I can't believe that's really Barry Sanders. Like, and I like want to like look him in the eyes and be like, do you realize how? Do you get awestruck? I know you have everyone from Scarlett Johansson to Jennifer Lawrence to you name the biggest stars, and like, do you get starstruck, or do you just look at this as this is my job? They have to respect it. I'm in my arena.
Yeah, I that's how I look at it. I really do. I don't get starstruck. There is always the moment when they walk into the room and you see them where you get a little butterfly performance anxiety thing that's kind of fun to feel, feels a little bit alive. So I definitely get that, but I don't think I get starstruck or anything. There's certain, to use a football analogy, there are certain shoots that feel like playoff games, or Gordon Ramsay coming in, that felt like a Super Bowl kind of moment.
Why is that? Because it's culinary, or because he's such a enigma?
I think it's because when we first started doing the show, fans would request him ad nauseum, almost to the point where it got hard to do the show. We'd announce the new guest, like this week on the show, this person. All the comments would be like, when are we getting Gordon Ramsay? It was this albatross growing around our necks that almost made it hard to do the show. So I think it was this internet fever dream that had forced us both into the room together, and he felt it too, and I felt it too. So in moments like that, it feels like maybe there's more at stake than just a regular shoot. But that overall, I think there's a job to do there, and I don't think being sycophantic does anything to serve an interview. So if you even do have those feelings, try to check them as much as you can, and just do your job. Just do your job. That's the way that I kind of look
Belichick.
at it. Mm-hmm, Belichick.
There's this moment after an interview with a celebrity or an athlete, and there's like you're kind of hanging around, and sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, I'm a fan of yours," or maybe not. In your case, I'm sure more than me. And there's like this moment of like, "Are we friends? Are we?" Has there been one of these actors or athletes or celebrities that you're like, after the interview, they're like, here's my number, and you guys have kept up and actually been friends with?
Yeah, I mean, my phone is kind of bananas, and then, and I sometimes, me and Bear Grylls actually had a conversation about this, because their shows are kind of similar in that you go through this ridiculous thing, and almost there's this trauma bond that happens, like we've been through some stuff together, and so I think there is a natural inclination to keep the relationship kind of going, you know what I mean? Or when you see them again, there's that natural, like from across the room, like my God, yeah, exactly, that sort of a thing. So that's always fun to experience. And I've actually, that's how really you and I met was, there's the Paul Rudd shoot in Hot Ones, and then that ends up into a friendly relationship. And, here I am at Big Slick and meeting you guys. But there's so many versions of that over the years. And that's been a really valuable thing. It's like almost this clubhouse that you end up in once you do Hot Ones. And it's sauce in, sauce out.
Who's the, I guess, most exclusive number in the phone? Like one that you wouldn't give out, or you wouldn't even feel comfortable texting. It's just like, I can't.
A lot of them. But Paul's
like, would you text Timberlake? You just did this thing. Would you text him and be like, "Hey, good show. We enjoyed it."
Yeah. Or you just be like, "Hey, that was so much fun. Great catching up with you again. Wishing you a speedy recovery. It was great to see you." Something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like Dave Grohl and. It's a lot. Like sometimes I'll even look at the messages and be like, "This is kind of crazy what's going on here." But it's been a blast. Yeah.
Who was the surprisingly most fun interview that maybe going in you're like, I'm not sure if this guy's got the huge, or gal has the biggest personality to be able to hang, but then they brought it.
We did one recently with John Stamos just a couple of seasons ago, and I don't know what I was really expecting when I know that he's a fun guy, and I'd enjoyed watching the interviews, the ones that I did, but he came in like a whirlwind, and it was the most fun I think I've ever had doing an interview.
Really?
Yeah, the most pure fun that while it was going on, it didn't feel like there was any formality or structure to it whatsoever. Yeah, it was just becoming fast friends, and he called my dad, and we've it was like, next time we play Ravinia, come watch us at the Beach Boys. Like, it was just so much fun. Sure. So I mean, that's always what happens, though. We used to kind of have a bet on how we thought it would go and where we think they'd tap out or like whatever. We stopped doing that because we were just wrong all the time. It's this unique social experiment once you get the wings involved. But yeah, there's been so many of those where it was just like I had high hopes, high expectations going in, and that was just a lot more fun and better than I thought it would be.
I've never met him. How is Seth Rogen?
Oh, he's a fun guy. He actually gave us one of the great compliments we've ever received on the show. After he did an episode, he was like, "These are not famous person hot. Like, this is the show." And he's right. Like, it is kind of a wild, wild west crazy show. But I always, that's what I take from Seth. That was one of the great backhanded compliments we've ever gotten from
Michael Cera was on the show.
Yeah. Amazing. And actually up there in the Pantheon, the Mount Rushmore of people who we've served this bizarro lunch to and didn't react to the hot sauces like at all. Just a stone face. Yeah. We're always worried about causing harm, really. Like, that's really the thing that, will sometimes or the thing that I worry about is like when it goes spiraling out of control. And so rarely are these things where it's almost like we didn't sauce the wings for them or something. You know what I mean? And that is what I remember from that episode.
I see so many different strategies, and a lot of times it starts with water, then it goes to the milk. Can you talk about the milk and why people drink milk when the spicy is getting too spicy and they're freaking out? They often lunge for the milk.
Yeah, I think that it's the fat that's supposed to cut the heat or whatever that you'd have in whole milk and dairy. But I've noticed that as the guests have gotten more and more famous, the milks have become more and more exotic. And they're very weird sort of, almond milk sort of offshoots that I think are just like water. I'm not sure there's the fat, there's the dairy in there to cut those things, but that's I've noticed. But in my opinion, it's the ice cream is the only thing that can really help. Once you're in that storm, maybe a sip of milk is temporarily relieving. Water, I guess, makes things worse, but psychologically I find it helpful. The only thing that works for me is some ice cream.
Who breaks out the ice cream? I don't think I've seen that.
We have
a lot of these guys break out the ice cream.
Yeah, and that's something that we've gone to a little bit more recently. And then Dom, our producer, will just always be standing by around Wing 7. If it looks like our guest is up against the ropes a little bit, she'll pour a bowl of ice cream and then jump in. Like, she'll give me a little like wave, and I'll be like, hey, bring in the ice cream.
Yeah. Athletes. Who's been the best athlete that you've had on that had the most fun with?
The Shaq episode, I think, is up there.
That was early on too, right?
Pretty
Was that
early
season
on.
one?
No, it was. I mean, we started stacking them. I'm not sure which season, but it was 5 years ago, or 4, 5, 6 years ago. It's all lost in a spice dream. But that was a big episode and an amazing one. We had Israel Adesanya on recently, and that was, I think, one of the
mixed martial arts.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I always think that the athlete interview is one of the most difficult nuts to crack in the interview space. And that, I thought he was, one of the best interviews we'd have. And then, Stone Cold, Undertaker, Sasha Banks. I always like
they're entertainers.
Yeah, they're entertainers, but it's
they're
like
entertainers.
sort of related a little bit.
But like, I get it. Like, you see a great football player, like, oh, he's going to be great, and then the personality's out there. Well, they're great at football. They're not. Supposed to be entertainers. You know what I mean?
Paid to catch balls and score touchdowns and throw touchdowns and sack the quarterback, and so they're not. It's just there's no incentive there. You know what I mean?
We had fun. We go to that Big Slick event now. 2 years in a row we've hung out, and your buddy Nick is always with you. That's my guy.
Yeah.
And we talk Bears, and then you're always asked to bring out the hot sauce and do a Hot Ones challenge. And First We Feast is there, and it's this year Mahomes and Kelsey were both a part of it. Did you get a chance to hang with either of those guys?
Yeah, I've worked with Travis a couple times, and then for a while there, we had social circles that were kind of in orbit of each other. So it was good to see him. Always good to see him. And then Patrick Mahomes, actually, I was playing third. He was playing short when for Eric Stonestreet, that ground ball that he threw behind his back to first base. I remember that having a front row seat to that.
You're in the clip.
Watch
the clip. You're in the background. That's your moment.
I was charging that ball, and then it was just blinding in front of me and then behind the back. So better that he got that than me.
Is there an NFL player you'd want to have on the show that you haven't?
That's a good. I mean, Tom Brady. I think I'd love to have on the show. I think the most interesting interview might be Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. He seems kind of.
Has he reached out? I feel like the two of you would hit it off.
I think there was a time where maybe the teams were like flirting for a second there. Sometimes we call it like a little flirting, where it's like, well, what about these dates and blah blah blah. So there was kind of like there's some mist, some fog, but I couldn't clearly see Aaron's face there yet. But I'm kind of just. He just seems like an interesting guy and an interesting interview. He'd be at the top of the mountain for me. I'm wishing him.
You know who I want you to do this show with?
Who? Yeah, I should just consult with you. You should tell me.
Here's who I want on Hot Ones next season. The Hoodie himself.
Yes.
Bill Belichick.
Yes, actually, we've talked about that. I think we've pitched him and Saban, actually. But that's like our talk right now. We've done a lot of actors, so we start thinking about directors, and we've done a lot of athletes. So now we're starting to think about coaches as you widen the scope. And I agree with you. I always love, it seems like once a year, there's that clip where Bill Belichick got asked about long snappers and went through the whole history of so it's like, wow, there's obviously a well of knowledge there that it's like, yeah, if you could tap it the right way, you'd have one of the most compelling football interviews of anyone living.
I think we're waiting for the quintessential Belichick interview, and I can help you write the questions. Like,
you
could have the third wing, and then you're like, so Mark Bavaro, tell me about his time in New York and what you made, and then Belichick sweating bullets in a hoodie while talking about Mark Bavaro and why he was such a good blocker.
You're hired. Let's do it.
No, let's do it. McVay would be fun. I think it would be like very like, oh man, I can't believe you got me sweating like this, bro. Like it'd be very much that. But I think that there could be an NFL version of this, and I'm sure you've talked with the NFL at length as you've been a friend to the Shield for many years now.
Yeah. We've done some Truth or Dab stuff with the Chargers the last couple of years, and they have like a really fun social team. They have like they have a media company there that's like bigger than First We Feast. You know what I mean? It's kind of nuts to see how that all works in there. But they're super fun to work with, and yeah, I'd like to expand it out and do more. I'm obviously a huge sports fan, and football in particular, so that would be amazing.
All right, so before we get to some football talk, this is always the awkward part of where you're at in your career and what you have. So you've got this awesome show and it goes viral. How many times does like a B-list celebrity like pitch you to your face and say, I want to come on, and you have to like kind of dodge it and maybe be a little uncomfortable and explain that, but and you in your head know like this person's not going to ever get in that chair.
Yeah, but you know what? You have to handle those things, I think, delicately, because you never know. Like in a couple of years, they get a project here. Like people can go fly into the top. So I never want to be someone who had like a charity event or whatever was kind of dismissive to somebody. Plus, who the hell am I? I'm a YouTuber.
I know.
I'm a YouTuber that eats scorching hot chicken wings. I'm a bigger clown than anybody. So I try to always keep that into perspective. But I guess my take is, and you're right, it does happen frequently, is to be like, yeah, for sure. Do you eat spicy food? I try to like go to a different
change the topic, blah, 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 talk about the food.
Talk about the food. Yeah, are you somebody who enjoys spicy wings? Now I'm giving away my whole playbook, so if somebody's watching this, they'll connect the dots when I do it in person. But I just do that. I'm just Midwest nice, and then roll out of it. But there is a lot of Instagram DMs, like people reaching out directly to me, and I'm just like, I just try to kind of I just ignore everything, because at the end of the day, I don't even know my own schedule or what the season looks like. You know what I mean? I'm just a Pac-Man that eats the next pebble. So when people bring stuff directly to me, I'm always like, I don't even know what to do. I'm basically an infant. You know what I mean? I don't make any decisions for myself. So I always just try to swerve it as best as I can, I guess.
You said something on an interview, I believe it was with Part of My Take, that really resonated, and I thought it was good for the listeners to hear too. Like, they were asking, what's next? And like, what do you want to do next? And I think your take was basically like, I love what I do. Is it crazy that I'm good doing this for the rest of my life? And I think that technique, because we're always trained in our careers to try to climb a ladder and kind of like, is it okay to be satisfied with what you're doing and just saying, I love what I do. I've got an awesome job and an awesome life, and I'm pretty content.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way that I look at it. And like I was telling you, my dreams and aspirations were, producer of a drive time AM morning sports talk show. You know what I mean? That's as big as I've ever dreamed. So I feel like I've kind of already done 10 laps around any expectation I ever had for myself. I wasn't like, and so I don't know if that, maybe it's like a lack of ambition or something, but I'm good. Like I all the people that I work with, I love creatively. There's nothing that really gets in my way. And to be kind of king of your castle is all that you can ask for. I had a short-lived TV show thing for a second. Like, now if a TV offer came in, I'd be suspicious of it more than anything, like more than seeing it as an opportunity. I kind of love the rhythm that I'm in and the track that I'm on. And I don't look around at anybody and think, I wish I had that, or I would want that. There's nobody that I'd trade with. So in my head, I'm like, I could do this for a really long time. Now, obviously, that's not necessarily in your control, and we're all just plinko balls bouncing through this whole thing. And so I never think like that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lock into this for a long time, but I'm happy, and I don't look at anything else and see a way to be happier. So I really like what I'm doing. I don't aspire necessarily to anything bigger. I don't even need to like, I don't know. I don't need to get any bigger in any way. I'm just very happy with the thing I have now, and I'm appreciative of it. And I don't really see, there's no motivation to change things right now at the moment.
Well, it used to be like, all right, so something like this would be like, all right, we'll have a late night talk show. But I think cultural relevance, bro, I think Hot Ones is bigger than those night shows right now.
Well, and too, it's like, those shows, that's a grind, to do that every single night, and I don't look at that and be like, oh, that's like a life that I want. Or even on the interview, you work through 3 guests every night or whatever,
Yeah.
And I would even my style and my preference is into like really marinate with something for a while, try to get a grasp on who this person or who this artist is, and then try to execute an interview against that. I wouldn't want to be in that sort of assembly line, like next guest up sort of car wash version of doing interviews. So I don't look at that necessarily either, so Yeah, I don't know. Just as long as the stomach lining holds up, I think I'm good doing what I'm doing for a while.
And that's the thing. Like, there's like a physicality to what you do, and
Yeah.
it's not Joey Chestnut. It's not you're not the guy. What was his name? Who did the Man versus Food? What was
Adam
his name?
Richmond.
You know
Adam
what I'm
Richmond.
talking- Adam Richmond. And, like, you're not that, but once a week or however often you're eating these hot wings and you're able to do it. Obviously, you've trained yourself to be able to do it. Is it everywhere you go in public, someone asking you to, try a wing or do a hot sauce? Do they look at? Is there a lot of that? Like, can you go through the airport these days without people hounding you to put hot sauce on something?
I'm kind of normal. I'm like normal looking enough that I can rip through an airport. I think sometimes my recognizability, because of how viral the clips have gone, is sometimes bigger than my profile, and it can sneak up on me in weird ways every once in a while. But yeah, usually if I go to a restaurant, at a decent percentage, wings will come out from the kitchen. Like,
Is that right?
From the kitchen. Yeah. That'll happen a lot. Or whatever, if they make a spicy dish, like that'll come out. Like I'm always trying to chase the spice. But it's also love, and you are what people think you are in this business. So whatever. I try to embrace it all, even though like I'm good on the spicy food off the clock.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to a couple years ago, NFL draft. The Bears are on the clock, and Aaron, I believe we have the clip.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so we're going to play the clip of you making the selection. Then I'm going to ask you what it's like. Is that cool?
Mm-hmm.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Jaquan Brisker, selected by the Chicago Bears via Sean Evans. What was it like?
You know what? It was that was in Vegas. I remember they have this massive green room, and they have all those kind of like fake living rooms for the guys that are getting drafted, and all their families are around and stuff. So I remember walking through that, and then you'll look to your left and see Keegan-Michael Key, and then you'll look to your right and see Sebastian Maniscalco, and then you'll look behind you and see Barry Sanders. That massive green room that's kind of like an emptied out IKEA, and there's so much going on. That's kind of a whirlwind. And then I remember you get backstage, and I guess the one thing that you worry about is because you don't really know who you're gonna. It's not like you can study it the night before or whatever. They just give you a card and then shove you out on stage to do the pick. So I guess the anxiety that I had was that I'd get some sort of 5-syllable last name.
Yeah.
That was the thing that I was kind of worried about.
That's this kid's moment. You don't want to screw up his name on his moment.
Exactly. That's the responsibility I felt for. Not that I'd look like an idiot. That's part of it. But yeah, that I'm permanently messing up this dude's moment. So I got the card. It said Jaquan Brisker, defensive back, Penn State. I'm like, that's an easy enough name. Then I went out there, and I remember it was in Vegas and kind of outdoor, and I remember it looking like a scene out of 300 or something. There was like some sort of like smoky mist that was rising above the crowd as all these like the raucous NFL fans that go to be boots on ground at draft. That's an interesting crowd, and it's
words to hear words said.
Yeah, it's a fun time. And then I remember you just get on there and try not to mess up the moment. And I was like a little quicker on the draw. I saw Brant. He had a whole production. I saw that. He had like the wings in his pocket and stuff. I was a little more grand opening, grand closing, but hit the name, walked off. And then, as much as the Bears have been painful, I do believe in Jaquan Brisker. I think that he had a good rookie campaign, and I like the way that he plays, and I'll forever watch him and follow him and root for him. It was a cool moment for sure.
It is pretty cool. You have a special connection to him for the rest of your lives. Like, you named him on the microphone when his biggest moment of his career, was commenced. It was pretty cool. I thought you were great. What are those conversations in the green room like? Are you bouncing? Are you talking? Are you introducing yourself? Are people come up to you? Like, when I hear Barry Sanders and Sebastian Maniscalco, I'm like, this is some melting pot, man.
Yeah, for sure. I talked to Keegan for a while. Derek Waters, who did Drunk History. I was back there chatting with him for a long time. I had my buddy Dustin Poirier back there. He was doing the Saints pick, so it was good to chat with him. And yeah, you just kind of look around and lock eyes and do some chats and talk football with everybody back there. And it was a cool experience, a really cool experience.
Did you get a chance to talk to Commissioner Goodell? I know he's
no, but he was super busy. But when I was backstage, waiting before they kind of shove you out there, I do remember like looking up, and directly to my left is like Roger Goodell. You know, he had a lot of plate spinning, so I didn't tap him on the shoulder, introduce myself as the chicken wing guy or anything. But I was like, I did turn, and he was just like right there.
You know what? It just clicked. We got to have Goodell on Hot Ones.
Yeah, right.
Would you do it? Would you have the commissioner on?
Maybe for yeah. I always like we kind of have a thing where it's like a putting in the codes for the bomb is like there's 3 keys, like kind of 3 people who, and if 2 keys turn, then you let it go. But yeah, that would be compelling. That would be interesting. I think is to widen the scope beyond just players and coaches and get into a commissioner. And I'm workshopping it right now.
All right, so you live in New York City full time, but you're in LA a bunch. I'm sure you go back to Chicago. Like, what's your Sunday Bears viewing ritual? Do you like block out Sundays, or are you a guy who's checking the score on the phone? Like, how hardcore do you get on a typical Sunday to watch the Bears?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if I can keep the pace, but that is part of the ritual, you know. Like, I like to on a Sunday morning wake up and go to the gym around 9 and get home around 11:30 and make a nice breakfast sandwich and, get like a nice brunch spread going and then fire up Red Zone or the Bears game, whatever happens first. And it is ritualistic and sedentary, and I like to just melt into the couch and watch a whole day of football whenever I can, whenever I have that chance on a weekend, when things aren't super busy. It's one of my favorite pleasures of fall. I love doing that whenever I get the chance.
All right, well, in June, you and I were together at this charity event, the Big Slick, and your buddy Nick is hardcore Bears also, and you guys pulled me aside, and Nick was like almost like adorable. He was so optimistic. He was so excited, and he's like, we signed Nate Davis as an offensive lineman,
wow.
and like Fields is going to be an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
I wasn't being an ass, but I just said to you guys, straight face,
real talk. Yeah,
they lost the last 10 games of the season,
right?
And I'm not sure Justin Fields showed me that he's gonna be. Sure enough, we're 2 weeks in, and I'm gonna play another clip, and I'm sorry to do it. Here's Justin Fields throwing an inexplicable pick 6 Sunday against the Buccaneers.
Clip will go right here.
All right, then I'm gonna ask you about the Bears so far, and then we'll wrap.
Sure.
This is great. 3, 2, 1. Dude, you're 0-2. Look like the worst team in football 2 weeks into this.
Yeah.
As we look across the next few months and your excitement level for the Chicago Bears, how are we feeling about the team from the Windy City?
So for me, you can like put plural teams from Windy City. I roll Bears season into Bulls season into White Sox season, and that has been like a sports fan's version of the human centipede, where one team leaves a giant stink behind, the next team swallows it up, leaves an even bigger stink behind, and this sort of thing has been going on. This steam train has rolled uninterrupted for like a decade plus. It's getting insane. So I think that's where you see the patience of Bears fans being tested, because it's like we've seen this movie over and over and over again. We're just caught in this death time loop, and I think and it just never stops. And then you can almost see the next chapter of it, where it's like they're the worst team, and then they draft Caleb Williams, and we're on another 2-year development timetable, only to find out in year 3 that we can't develop him either. That's the movie that just plays over and over and over again, and then it's added to by like all of the teams kind of doing this and ending up in this never taking a step forward, only 2 steps backwards sort of.
I mean, it's
situation.
got to be so deflating, though. We're in week 3 of the NFL season. I was thinking they'll be 1-1 or they'll be 2-0. You look at that, you're like Green Bay home with Jordan Love and a bunch of unknown receivers, and then the Buccaneers without Tom Brady. I'm not trying to be like this. This mean guy, but 0-2.
No, I mean, I just I'm resigned to the fact that I just root for unserious teams. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where I've kind of had to, in order to not react to it emotionally, the sort of place that you have to put yourself in. And I mean, I think even the organization is kind of on their heels about how bad things are. You know what I mean? Like, they don't even really have like a good, they'll say like new era and this and that. But to me, you talk about the movie replaying itself. That week one, it almost really did feel like, remember when Nagy like wore the fedora and the suit for that week one Packers game?
And got George Halas.
Exactly.
100th year
right.
NFL.
It gets blown out, and then that's kind of the beginning of the end. And I caught the same vibes. Like Pole's kind of like pacing the field like he's the lion, like taking on his kingdom, like that. And then they go and just come out flat and like are observably goofy. You know what I mean? Like that whole thing has just gotten so old. You'd think that, them or one of these teams would just like accidentally get it right. But that's sort of where we are, where it's kind of like been, like even the hope that you had, there's just not much that's irredeemable from these first 2 weeks. And, what choice do you have but to stand by your man? And, I'll still watch and I'll still root, and on every new regime and every new change, I'll chug all the Kool-Aid and I'll get my hopes up, and then I'll just get stomped out again. And thus, that's the plight of a Chicago sports fan, especially these days. And I'm resigned to that reality. It's okay. I'm just like that Jaguars fan meme that's just like, when he's like, like that. I'm just like that all the time now.
Were you alive? I mean, it was 85, but like, for Bears? No, like you were.
No, I've never. They had the one Bears Super Bowl
Colts,
when I was in college with the Colts that they lost. But in my life, I'm approaching 40 over here, and I've never seen the Bears win a Super Bowl. I don't know. It's not like I look around the corner and see any daylight either.
Yeah, no, it's not like this might be the year.
No, there's none of that.
In closing, you and I have become friendly, but one thing that we really bonded on was our love for Howard Stern.
Yes.
And our love for Richard
Christie.
And our love for Sal Governale.
Yes.
And like, when you were growing up, I'm the same way, dude. I listen to Mike and the Mad Dog every day on the way home from school, and I'll just leave it on. And I'll listen to Stern in the morning on the way to school. And now, whether or not you're a fan of Howard Stern or not, there's no doubt that he is one of the greatest celebrity interviewers of all time. Your influences as a kid, as an adult, as you got into this space where I think truly, I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. I think truly you got the crown. I think watching your interviews with celebrities, it was like Charlie Rose and it's Sean Evans now. Like that, you're the dude.
Well, thanks, Peter. I'm not sure I deserve that, but I appreciate the compliment. And you're right, to be a kid and be kind of raised by the Howard Stern show and Loveline and David Letterman. I think I
you throw Loveline in there, Corolla and Dr. Drew.
Yeah. I'd listen to that every single night. That's probably the most important show to me. I think that's actually what kind of even pushed me into thinking about radio. Is that was a show that every night from 10 to midnight on Q101. That was appointment listening to me every night.
So like you hear that, like, have you ever met Corolla Stern?
Yeah. I've met Adam. He's done the show. I've done his show. Jimmy as well. And then same as I've been to some events and seen him there and we chat. And then haven't met Dave yet. Haven't met Howard. But Stamos said that he sent the Hot Ones episode to Howard, and that Howard said it was a good interview. So I know that
That's
at
so
least
funny,
it's touched his world a little bit, So now we just gotta get Dave.
You say Stamos, and it's funny because you say Stamos, and obviously Full House, and then you go through all the different things. I immediately think of, well, John Stamos is a friend of Howard Stern. Like that's how I think of John Stamos. I'm like, he's in the Stern world, and that's with our connection of Howard. But we got to meet Richard Christie, and if you're listening right now and you're like, I'm here for football, who's Richard Christie? Richard Christie is a character and an amazing guy on the Howard Stern show. And with all these different celebrities in the room, and you've got Darius Rucker, and you've got, legends of comedy, and you've got Mahomes and Kelsey. You and I were just obsessed with talking to Richard Christie, and I loved it.
We did.
Richard Christie was amazing.
Yeah, we cornered him in that suite and just talked to him about prank calls until like 3:00 in the morning. And then the next day, I probably annoyed him by the end of the weekend because like the bus would pull up and I'd see a seat next to Richard. I'd just plop down next to him and just bombard him with even more questions about Tradio. I'd just be like, but what a fun guy and a very sweet guy and disturbed comedic genius for sure.
Disturbed comedian and a great drummer.
Great drummer too.
Who knew?
Great drummer.
Unbelievable. Iced Earth. Sean, thank you, dude. It took an hour of your time. So appreciate it. Anywhere we can find these, if people are listening to the first time and they're football fans and are not necessarily in touch with the Hot Ones and the First Week Feast crew.
Yeah, just Hot Ones. New episodes come out every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Season premiere actually this Thursday for season 22 with NSYNC. So if you're at all interested, that's where to find it. YouTube.
Awesome. And go Bears.
Go Bears. Bear down.
Let's go. Thanks, dude.
Thank you.